Good morning, everyone. As he said, I'm Joanna Michaels, and this is Christopher Stephen Jacobs, and we are of the lifting. Probably most of you have never heard of us before, which is fine, so I'll just do a little bit of an introduction. First with just Chris, or you can talk about yourself a little bit. In general, Chris was born from a family who had psychic skills and different things that were going on. Your mother, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit real quick, or go ahead, you're right.
Yes, I was actually, my mother had psychic skills. I mean, my father had his own intuitive skills, being a police officer, but my mother was more into the spiritual side of it. And she basically encouraged, when I was real little, seeing different beings and seeing different entities around, that I wasn't too necessarily afraid of it, but to basically, when there was good around, embrace that. Just like when I was 5 years old, I saw my grandfather after he had passed away a year before. And what had happened at that point is she told him, oh, he's not ready for this yet, wait a little while. And then later on in time is when I started seeing more. And then in 2009, I had a bad car accident which incurred a near-death experience.
He was actually hit by a car
Yeah.
walking across the street.
Yes, and I was actually in spirit what seemed to be like 2 weeks of my time. And it was only like 1 hour here. And I was in a forest clearing with a bunch of guys, a bunch of beings there, that I was literally there day and night for 2 weeks, what seemed like 2 weeks. And they said as that time passed, I had to come back here, that basically a little bit of tweaking had been done down here, came back, and I had been doing channelings before that. I'd been doing paranormal work before that. But this hyper-accelerated certain abilities to where I could both not only discern better, but I could actually communicate better with different beings, different entities, and do what I do now, which is actually clear different negative entities and energies. So, and remove attachments. I could then see into energy cores of people's energy core, body, light body, any of the dimensional spaces that their oversoul encompassed. I could actually see what I perceived that. So yeah, after a while, I started doing public talks on podcasts, things of this nature. I was encouraged to go public. And then by the time I met Joanna in 2016, we started the lifting of January of, I believe, 2017. So yeah, and we have been doing that ever since.
So one of the questions, and again, for myself, it's kind of simple. I was just leading a regular life, but I was always a bit intuitive, started to have some experiences. I tend to believe my experiences are what potentially may be happening more to just everyday people now. And so what happened to me is I went through a series of growth, just inner growth that started, where, for example, I'm in the bathroom, solid towel, but it's all crunched up. Now, all of a sudden, those, what I think are lines, are turning into a picture. And so marbled floors, turning into a picture. And then things went from stagnant to moving. Then things went from, I closed my eyes and now I'm watching a movie. Does that make sense? So for a lot of people now, although most of the time people are thinking that people are born into families like this, there is something very special now going on with the energies and our individual growth, whether we realize we're growing or not, that changes are beginning to happen to folks. And so I think, and for a while, because I'm honestly a nurse as a profession, I was waiting for my brain tumor diagnosis, because things really began to change for me, and I thought something was really medically wrong. Nothing was medically wrong. I was just growing more and expanding more. And one of the things when Chris and I began this journey and decided to go public with everything was that we said, we want to start from scratch and we want to know what truly is. So in one of those moments where you decide, I am going to revet everything I've ever been taught about life, about spirituality, about religion, about everything, about what they say our history is as humanity. What is there really something different? Because even at that time, archaeology was not starting to match, right? I think a lot of people can say archaeology is not matching the given story. And so one of the things that we've had a great passion about is understanding our what we consider more of our truer origins of existence as human beings, and we also recognize, maybe more so than some people of other faiths and religion, that the negative side exists just as much as what people would call the light side. So we began exploring it all without fear of having any conversation. We do not believe that just having conversation conjures anything. If you get caught in a loop in your head, you can. If you get caught in a running loop in your head with a thought, you can. Because we actually, our belief system and through the conversations, we really are co-creating our own personal experiences. But in general, just having conversations. So when we started the lifting, one of the things that we actually knew at that point in time is that the myths that are out there about Atlantis, about all of these different things of ancient past, some related to Egypt, really were. But there was also dialogue left out from before that time that played a part as to why these civilizations had problems. Why are you seeing glass in the desert that looks like nuclear war, right? So we wanted to know kind of and have that full conversation. And so we actively began searching and vetting and trying to have conversation and recordings regarding ancient history, where we think we came into the picture. And one of the most fascinating things that I want to have you think about, if you haven't already, maybe many of you have, is the fact that, this goes way further back than anyone actually can imagine right now. The one movie that's out there right now that I loved it coming out for one specific reason, and I do not know if any of you guys have seen it. It was called 65, and it had Adam Driver in it, and it was a story based upon when the dinosaurs were here on Earth, but there were humans out there still traversing. When you look at us, we're kind of an outpost, an outlier, when you look at how we are in the star systems. And that there was actually humans in space vehicles going from one place to another. Earth was just kind of this little spot out there now. And the story of it really quickly is he's trying to transport people from one place to another, and unfortunately gets caught up in the Earth situation. The one thing I love about that movie is the suggestion that humans and the human skin suit and people having an experience in this is way older. The interesting thing about it also that we've come across that we would like for you to consider when you're thinking about things is that the Darwinism's theory of how evolution occurs, and that we all started in Africa and we all moved along and it was our environment that changed us. The DNA changing of a human being does not actually change that quickly. And so some of it doesn't make sense. So the bottom line that from our channelings that we have actually wanted to bring into conversation and help people consider is that Earth was colonized by multiple races from out there. So so Earth was colonized. In fact, one of the interesting things we had a chance to, we were sponsored to go to Japan to have a certain talk. The Asian people, from our understanding, we've had many conversations again, that is a race called Untumban. And so the Dogon tribe in Africa, they know that they come from out there, right? So, and some of the mythos, some of the mythos out there that people wonder, are these beings in myth? You know, like Odin. Are these people real? Are these just myth? And people are saying, wonder if some of these myths are based off of something that was factual. Our answer would be yes to that. Because again, this kind of was an experiment to see, could multiple races come? Not only did they come, but they actually brought things with them. Does everyone ever hear about the conversation going on about octopus? They're not natural. They were brought in from what we can tell. The land in Japan, I'll just say really quickly because I know Chris wants to jump in, is a higher vibrational land. The land itself is higher vibrational. It was brought in. So you have to be able to expand yourself to think, well, maybe back in the day, something really massive was going on and came down into this earth. And so, and a lot of us, again, we've lectured hundreds and hundreds of shows. It's hard to bring it down to one. But if you can just open your mind to that, then some of our conversation that we're going to have here in a minute will maybe make a little bit more sense. And so, and want to contribute?
Yes, what I wanted to, I don't want to get too close to that mic. Okay. What I wanted to say was, a lot of these different beings, they want people to know they're not necessarily higher beings, they're not necessarily gods, or even though beings like Odin and some of them are in a particular vibration where one could consider them gods, and sometimes they've been called that, sometimes they use that word so that we know to associate that, something different with them. But at the end of the day, there's a ton of galactics out there, a ton of dimensional beings that are no different than ourselves. I came to find out that about 90 to 95% of what we're seeing is either earthly or dimensional, and about 2 to 5% is galactic. And that's still a lot. 2% of the galaxy is still a lot of it. So what is actually going on is they want everybody to know that everybody's equal, even though there are different vibrations and different frequencies, not necessarily somebody to pray to, always get guidance from, but yes, you can seek advice, you can seek wisdom, but they only know as far as their knowledge goes for as advanced as their civilization got, if that makes any sense. So, just like say you have a race that's much older than us, or our situation here. They are just going to know the knowledge from out there to their species. They can access spirit, they can access all these things, but they still only have their way of interpreting it and their way of being. This is what a lot of the galactic community wanted me to relay as well. That yes, they can be guides, yes, they can help out, but they are not beholden to our wishes, is what they want. That's a point of discernment they wanted me to relay. They will help out if they can. Sometimes they're bound by certain rules, sometimes they can't actually do it because there's a force that has equal power to them. So they wanted me to relay that. I know people are taught to actually always say pray to them or see them as higher. They want to be seen as equals. They don't want to be seen as a higher being. Even though they might come from a more rarefied, pure environment energetically than us, we have the ability to attain that environment or to create that here. Now also there's other misnomers. You're seeing also at different points along the globe, especially in Asian culture and Tibetan, where sometimes a certain master will pass away and you'll see their skeleton turns into or their body turns into a crystal. That's actually a galactic human when that happens, the untampered with DNA, the unmixed DNA that came from out there. And when everything got mixed, it started to dilute some of those particular features. That isn't something to attain like a crystalline DNA, that's something that we are remembering and we're thinking it's ahead of us when it's really behind us. And it was part of our genetic makeup. We're just remembering what make up us, is what we're doing. And they wanted to relay that as well. Like also things like disasters, like you've heard whole apocalypse, you've heard, Mars, you've heard all of these stories. And you've heard all of this. What ended up happening is people are thinking something's ahead when it's, again, memory from behind. In this solar system, you had Asgard, which people like to call Maldek, but it was a planet that exploded. That was the Norse Scandinavian Ragnarok when that took place.
That's the asteroid belt that's
yeah, that's
sitting
the asteroid
in,
belt.
that's
So, yeah.
literally sitting in a
Yeah.
place where a planet should be.
Yeah, we're scientific, yes.
There was a planet.
And it happened 500 million years ago, and people are just remembering the tragedy in their, not only in their genome, but in their soul memory, and they think, oh, this is ahead, this is gonna happen. Well, it's an undealt with past. It is an undealt with bit of information that they haven't come to terms with even after this long.
And the reason that he's saying that is because, again, I think most people in here do believe in reincarnation. Is that hopefully? So one of the things that you have to understand is that we ourselves, not right here in this avatar, right, that our soul is plugged into right now, but many of us have done this many times before. And many of us were back in the day having an experiences. Many of us were a part of a time frame where things went, I say, down the toilet, right? So in a sense, we were potentially, a lot of us, around for a great fall, let's say, and now we're back healing, dealing with some of these issues to change the frequency of vibration and to grow and expand, to lift from that and to move ourselves now back out ready for the galactic society that we are in the process of gaining information and learning how to do. So that is where we named ourselves the lifting, to be a part kind of the information that helped come out, because many of us were there in the times of Atlantis, Egypt, Mu, all of these places. There really was a period of time of unity. And there really was, but unfortunately, I refer to it as the darkness, the dark side. Some of that seeped in and took hold, and then conflicts began, and then warring began. So there are going to be people who have remembrances of a beautiful time, because there was a beautiful time. There was a lot of effort put together. It was actually has been a grand experiment, because believe it or not, out there, most worlds are only of one race. So it's one race, one government, one world out there. There are some exceptions, but in general, I say the bell curve, the bulk of them really are like that. So here was this really grand experiment of bringing multiple cultures together, seeing how do they make it worse. And then unfortunately what happened within the falls and the warring that occurred, believe it or not, people have heard talk about the Galactic Senate. In a different form, it existed. Things were done with treaties. It really was a formalized process to come in here and do these things. And once the big fall started to begin, there was holy, you know what? We kind of need to quarantine this off a little bit and let them hopefully get themselves together, because we don't need this going out to the rest of us in our worlds. Does that make sense? So there really was kind of a little bit of pushing down and trying to get people to deal with them. When a lot of the warring happened, people, because they couldn't leave, right? The tampering comes down even on them, they couldn't leave. Then a lot of people, they had to scatter and save themselves. Some did go underground. This is where you hear the Agartha stories, okay? Some did. Some went to different places. They kind of had to pull themselves together and collect themselves. This is also where technology started to fail, because there was a bit of a quarantine. So now people may be hearing the stories out there of this old ancient technology that's being hunted down to see if it can be turned back on. Well, this is where I'm telling you where it came from. We're talking way back in the day. But a lot of the technology that was happening at that time were genetic-based technologies. And so, believe it or not, a lot of us sitting around are descendants of these colonists, but our DNA isn't as pure to be able to cut these things back on.
It's just like the vibration's vastly different too. It's just like you see in Stargate. They always did the ancient gene where they would activate different technologies and everything. That is very similar to what we're talking about. back during the times of World War II, this is what the Nazis were after in different countries. They were actually trying to seek out this with other ET help, looking for these resources, because some of these resources in the galaxy don't exist anymore after this time. There was such a massive war out there, a lot of resources were depleted or gone. And even the ancient technologies, like some of the stone technologies, are very valuable to them out there. Tartarian technology, like the spiral pillars, are very valuable to some of these races that want to dominate again. They depicted this in Star Trek, where they didn't want negative races to gain, progenitor technology. That's exactly the story, right there. They did it perfectly. So yeah, there's also right now, I want to switch just slightly. There is right now, I would say, a war of like demigods and a spiritual war going on right now. And this is what I'm doing. There's different demigods, different servants, different groups. You've heard of Kabbalah. Everybody's heard of that. I won't go completely into that. But different groups, even different military groups, answer to different demigods. And even Hollywood, you've heard that whole spiel. Different demigods involved there. So this is what's going on. Each demigod is trying to one-up all the rest of them. Then there's actually genuine good ones out there just trying to clear the board here and kind of restore order and peace. And this is exactly what's going on today. You've heard the stories of Enki and Enlil. Those two are still very active right now after all this time. And do they kind of take Team Enki and Team Enlil right now? Yeah, that's how they are in reality. So these stories are still, these demigods, these beings are still very much around. They may look a little different than they did back in the day. Even Poseidon, that's Enki. We talked to him at one point, and he said if we saw him today, we would almost consider him to be an abomination, because he said he changed over a period of time. He originally looked like a big Viking with like fish scales at one point, but he's changed over a period of time. So he said that we wouldn't recognize some of them right now, except in their original form. Odin, I speak to him quite often. People scoff at this because they're like, oh, Chris, isn't this just another demigod? You can say that, but I don't go into worship mode. I'm not that type of person. I interact, I interface. I do not worship, nor do I lend energies or give energies to any being at any given time. Any being that asks for this or wants that kind of attention, I don't want to get to know them. So anytime, I don't care how old they are. They've even slipped in at times, they've even slipped into our modern world ways that people don't know that they're worshiping them, like slipping into coins, artwork, poetry, words, spells, that they link back to their different dimensions. And you have to follow your discernment at that point, whether this feels good to you or not. If it does not, don't work with it. If it does, great. You have to discern whether it is your own bias of how you feel about a certain being, or is it what you're actually feeling about that certain being. Use your intuition always with this. And the same goes with interacting with forest people. We do that as well. If your intuition says if you're in a wooded area that you should leave, do it. Because they're probably wanting you away from a colony or something like that. Doesn't mean they're bad, they just want you away. You also have to discern whether something is bad or if it's just strong and you can't handle it. Like your body can't handle it, or your energy can't handle it. That doesn't mean they're the same thing. You have to distinguish between that bone-crushing, dark feeling and something that is just strong. And our genome just might not be able to handle it currently, and that's why some of these beings, you don't see them in our dimension, our heads would explode. So even the forest people, even as much as you heard about Sasquatch, there is an old story where there was a couple of them in a Tibetan temple, and the monk, even in a meditative pose, without talking, without doing anything, had a very difficult time being physically around them, because the genome automatically wants to go into fight or flight. It's an instinctual thing the Anunnaki put in our genome centuries ago. And that's why some beings that they encounter aliens out there, they automatically go, and they get surprised or they go into fight or flight. It is embedded in the genes. And some of the beings that I've dealt with have tried, even I go through this, like if they've been around taking me to a spaceship or something, they'll say, yes, we had to drug you because you acted like this. So it's like no offense to you, it's literally in your genes. So we're trying to help you get this virus out of the DNA. And weed this out. It was put in you guys a long time ago by beings we don't necessarily approve of their agenda, so we're trying to help you out of this now.
So one of the things, again, with this ancient races, and so maybe some of the story, if you're considering the story we're saying, where I said the movie 65, humans existed already out there, look like us, okay? You also know now, who remembers Dolly the sheep? Does anybody? Okay. Tinkering, right? Cloning, doing things like that, and then all of a sudden it disappeared, never to be spoken about again. Right. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is that we're talking ancient races. They did want slave races. Those stories are true. And so if you can take and you know how to clone and you know how to grow a body, you can certainly go through the process of figuring out how to take the genetics that will create human-like workers, right? And you can do what you need to, right, to be able to create this, change some of the genetics and different things. Most of these, what we call demigods, some of them are just some of the rotten colonists, okay? And I mean rotten. They wanted
That
slaves.
turned into that format.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, after the goodness went away and things started, and they wanted a slave race. They wanted people to be loyal to them. And so it's hard for people to understand that in the genetics of things, that things can be altered to cause you to look at them as now your God, right? That they could cause a reaction with you to fear certain things so that you would be an already ready fighting force. Do you see? So if they can get you to be a fear, not fear them, and some of it's psychological, but to fear others, you're willing to fight when you get scared, right? And so these things happened a long, long time ago. The one thing that we were told was really interesting about this long-term human DNA type of skin suit that was created so long ago is that there is a self-repair mechanism within it. And so what actually has been happening over time, okay, is that some of the self-repair, they originally did not want their workers to reproduce. So you hear that story, right? That some of that came back. And then the human race then now, because they can reproduce, have moved beyond. There's a lot of them now, right? There's a lot of them now starting to come onto this earth. And so those interactions. But the key things about that probably are understanding that sometimes things that are so true are a little bit perverted. And one of the things that is so true that is really there is there's something greater than ourselves. Okay? There really is. Now, some people, from what we understand, it's the energies that if you can't see everything, we're all connected, the energies in between us. We refer to that as the source of all things. But the source of all things is honestly kind of a little neutral. It allows for these, because we're within the source of everything, that it's allowing for a lot of these experiences for growth to see is there something more to learn. And it's hard to swallow that at times because we're not always necessarily going through something. But in the source's creation, people talk of maybe here you've heard people talk about your oversoul or your higher self. There really is that too. You yourself are a part of something much bigger in the primordial soup of the source of all things. And so believe it or not, I just want you to open your mind that sometimes when you're praying for assistance, it's yourself that is helping you. You are now being helped by your own self, okay? But in the muck of it all, think of the creation of all of us and think about if you came in here and you reincarnated and now you experience this, and this is a bit of a duality environment. That's why we see things as black or white, bad or good. Do you see what I mean? I'm nice, you're not. It's in the real world, in the totality outside of this, it's not quite that way. But we're given a filter of perception of how to view things, and that's one of them. And so right now, unfortunately, having that filter already in place can make us susceptible for certain thoughts, actions, programming to get us to act out. You either, and now it's gotten to the point, I'm a bit older, I remember people getting along. Now it's like you either believe me completely or you're out, right? Really? When was really that? That's a bit unfortunately of it, because one of the things that was said, that was spoken about at the very end, the word was use. If you're a co-creative being and you can co-create, unfortunately most people have learned to co-create in a poor way because they've never been taught, and because your energies are being used by somebody else who's coalescing the energies and doing what they want with it. What if you were taught how to co-create effectively for yourself and for humanity? Well, would that potentially be dangerous to some of these demigods? So the instruction manual has kind of been left out in that topic. But one of the things that's going on right this current present moment with this is to not have these conversations so that people do not learn and people do not unify. So if you can think back to current events in the past 5 or 6 years of your life, I think most people can see clearly that there has been, now, be it from a issue, disease, whatever you want to say and call it, there has been great attempts to keep people from being together, to keep people distance, to keep people, because we are expanding naturally. That's why people are sitting here, that's why everyone's curious. But how do you grow a genuine and authentic unity? That type of unity, which is so valuable, okay, is not you agree with me on everything or you're out of my life. That's not what that is. What it is it stands for certain foundational belief systems. And then you're free to believe what you want. We're not talking causing harm. We are certainly not talking pedophilia. We are not talking abuse, neglect. We're not talking that any of that is okay. But most of the times, what I just said, and you want your children to be healthy, you want your food supply to be healthy, you want your medical industry to be about proactive health and not reactive dependency. You want all of these things. And believe it or not, if everyone would unify on just these things now, you would see some major changes. Because our intention and belief in what we focus on to be better is stronger than anything else. But if you're not taught how to do that and everything, you don't. So even in families right now, amongst these communities, what's happening is that, again, I need you to accept me and hear my story. Why? Why? There's how many billions of people? Why can't we just have conversations around the things we can unify? And then I just accept you're having that experience. But even within this community itself, there's division, because that old preset and which is really being pushed onto us now, it's 100% agreement or you're dead to me, right? That is done intentionally to keep us apart. So please know that. There really is no reason, again, you should defend yourself. You shouldn't be around people that you know and you can feel really, your frequencies are so far apart, it's going to be a bad problem. I'm not saying that. But that's not the majority of people. But they have you thinking it is, right? If you watch the news, if you watch these different things. It's all a concerted effort. And so what I think one of the biggest things that we really want you to consider is how huge this is, how long this has been going on, and everything from the past is right here in your face right now. And so genuine unity, genuine caring, genuine about the basics, anyone should be able to have around the Thanksgiving table with all of their family, and most all of their family would actually agree on all those things. Do you see what I mean? But now we're afraid even to have those simple conversations. Because what if I do and they get they're going to blast me on social media and stuff like that, right? We refer to this as self-farming. Humans are now self-harming the behaviors that are not good for them. But we are a huge believer in defending, and one of the areas that we talk about very strongly, as Chris already mentioned, was the ability to discern. Every human being was born with the ability to discern, but it's been beaten out of you since the time you were born. So I'm going to just use a few examples, and then we never like to have discussions without doing a little exercise to show you, to have you prove to yourself, oh, I think I know what they're saying, and yes, I think I do have this. So discernment. Let me use a good example. What should I be around? What is good for me and what is not? I did not say what was bad or good, did I? So what is good for me now? What should I be around and what should I avoid? So for example, I would hope a second grader would discern that maybe they don't belong in a physics class, right? I don't belong here. But if they're 16, 17, 18, they may be just in love with being in a class like that. Does that make sense? So discernment is about what is not good for me right at this moment. It doesn't necessarily mean it won't be right for me later down the road. Now there's some things you're probably always going to discern you don't want to be around. Hopefully a psychopath is one of them. You don't want to be around that. You're willing to walk on the other side of the street, right? You just want to avoid that. So I'm going to use little girls, because little girls probably have had it beat out of them more than anything, where, you were told and everything said, I don't want to go play with Annie in the sandbox. I just don't want to go over there, little girl. You tell your mommy that, your mommy tells you how ashamed she is of you, you should not be acting that way. You are going to go play with little Annie in the sandbox. And not only are you going to go play with little Annie in the sandbox, you're going to apologize for having those thoughts. Do you guys get it? That's how, even from a small age, mommy and daddy are arguing. The child says, you guys are arguing? No, we're not arguing. Yes, you were. And the child knew it. Temper down the discernment. Does that make sense? I'm not saying any of it was intentional. I'm just saying that is what has occurred to people since birth, to try and get you to not pay attention to your automatic GPS system, but to do what you're told and to believe what you're told versus believing and understanding what you're feeling, which is your GPS guidance system. So I like to do just a quick exercise with people. And again, I'm going to do it quickly, but I hope you take this back if you don't feel it already and practice on your own. And it's really, really simple. So if you take a moment right now, some of you may want to close your eyes to just really take in what I'm saying to do. But all I want you to do is to think about something you really love. It could be a person, it could be a child, it could be a cat, it could be a dog, it could be a tree, it could be your garden. What do you truly love that brings you so much joy that you'd like to be around and do? I want you to think about it. I want you to interact with it for a minute. And then I want you to think about, where are you feeling that in your body? So most people, what they will feel is in this area that I was pointing to before, they'll feel an energy start to grow. Something's growing and it's pulling me towards the thought of what I am in love with. Does that make sense? You're opening up, you're feeling something here, you're like gravitating a little bit to this. So that's a basic, okay, I'm ready for this now. Now hopefully the second grader would have the following. Think about something, again, I would say use something you hate, because that's the opposite, but it could just be something you weren't ready for. Use something you hate. You really hate something, okay? It could be the thought going through your mind, let's say pedophilia, of people being abused. It could be there's someone in my life that fits in that category, right? Or something you really hate doing, and you really hate it. And I want you to now feel that. And where do you feel that? Most people are going to feel it right here. And it's going to be something that kind of, where everybody says I'm getting sick to my stomach, it's right here. And it's an energy that pushes, almost bends you forward. Those are the basics of discernment. When you start to work with that and yourself again, you may have to look at your life and say, holy smokes, what have I now Oh my goodness. And then the question is, are you going to trust it? Are you not going to trust it? Are you going to potentially start to think about this? And how am I going to lend my energy so well to this world if I'm so tied up in things that maybe I need to make an adjustment on? You have to know it. Then you take those skills and you're going to utilize them everywhere. You're going to utilize them in conversations. You're going to utilize them. You're going to start to fine-tune. And then what you're going to find is that you may actually start to have reactions before the information comes to you when you really get good at this, because you're reading energies now. And you start to slowly trust the energies. So right now, I think one of the things that I would ask people to discern is everybody my enemy? Is there, or is there maybe an illusion going on that wants me to think that? Can I open the door? Used to be the doors would open in a grocery store and say, can I help you? Can I open the door for you? Right now, people just stay to themselves. They do nothing because of a lot of fear. Is that really who you are? And then that's the other thing. You have to find out who you really are. Right now, most people are within a situation where they're what other people have them be. You are what other people want you to be. You do not speak your genuine, authentic truth. You do not do these things. So right now we're in a process of people realizing that I do want to be my genuine, authentic self. I do want to grow into that. I do want to do these things. So you are going to have to dust off. And again, that skill was given to you from birth. They couldn't get it out of you, so they had to do everything in the world to tamper it down. So please understand that. You're way bigger and greater than you know. But yeah, I always say you're just covered with a lot of mud. And the goal now is to get that mud stripped away so that you can do what you need to do. So you want to channel?
Yeah, we did.
I know. So in that sense of unity is so important. One of the things that we do that would add on to the service that was done earlier with the opening and the beautiful bowls and things is we actually always open if you do view our material online and you do see us, you're going to always see us do something opening and closing. We've been asked to bless many conferences ourselves. So with that and with the concept of genuine unity, I would like to add to the prayer that was said before. And basically what we do is we refer to this as the law of one. It's not the standard law of one that was done in some previous writings. It's not, that's kind of what we did. So with that, let's see as well if we can add to the energies, because you will make the choice to add to the energies, your intentions. So it goes like this. We are all one. When one is helped, all are helped. Let unity guide us and lead us. It will make us all stronger. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for the people participating in this conference, the speakers, the vendors. We ask that healing energies come to them, to their family and loved ones, to bring them to their highest good. We pray for those who will provide service to you today. May they be guided by benevolence with no conflicting agenda, so that they can provide the service that is for your highest good. We ask now for benevolence with no conflicting agenda to now come in and to raise the energies and to join this conference. We ask that so that we can have this conversation in peace and great understanding. We ask for malevolent or mischievous type beings now to be swept away so that we may have these days in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we will always send your way, we say, so be it. And with you, if you would agree, so be it. This is how a collective consciousness occurs. For some people that are energy people, you may have felt something really begin to change. If you have gatherings and you have people of like-mindedness, it is always good to set the energy and the energetics of what is going on in agreement of benevolence, and I would use those words, benevolence with no conflicting agenda. These are the things you want to surround you now as you traverse through all of this. And yes, you need to understand that malevolent and mischievous beings exist to trip you up along the way. We don't want any of that. We acknowledge your existence, and we are saying with great intention that we do not want this. So we do go about telling people to put on their shielding during the day. You can come by. We're in the back corner. Actually, if we open the store, we would be right here, right across if you want to come by and talk a little bit about more about some of these things and skills, we're all about that. But I hope those people that are energy sensitive can feel maybe a little bit of an upliftment because you now put your energies and your intention into this experience as well. And that is very, very important. You need to co-create what is best for you and not for someone else. So with that, I think what we're going to do now, you feel good about it? What I asked Chris, because believe it or not, channelers cannot channel in all kinds of conditions. That's a falsehood. There are some dense areas and some dense time that it must not be done. But we're doing everything that we can to uplift this now so that he can properly channel. If it happens when he's channeling, you may be asked if you have any questions. And so if so, you may find something you're inspired to ask, and then please do, okay?
What she was referring to was the environment that I happened to.
You want me to hold that?
Oh, yeah. An environment that I happened to be in when we went to go do a talk one time was so dense that I couldn't do the channel. And the person that ran the event was a little miffed, and I said, I have to adhere to safety protocols here. And it was so haunted and so dense that I couldn't do anything. So I stayed silent most of the time, and there was someone that came up to us later on that said they wouldn't have considered me legit had I actually done it anyway, and because he was doing the same thing. And he had been doing it years before myself. So I'm like, all right, and I learned this the hard way. I've been stupid, folks, trust me. There were 3 places that I did this. I should never have done channeling. One of them was Gettysburg Battlefield. One of them was the site of the Boston Massacre, and the other one was Salem, Massachusetts. So yeah, Salem though is good. There's a lot of good there, but the place where I was not. No, so I was stupid in all 3 of those instances. So from that point forward, I'd have friends bail my energy out of that one, and from that point forward, I got real strict on safety protocols. And yeah, you don't just want to go anywhere to do it. So I always gauge how dense it is. Even on the ride here, we were hitting dense pockets. I'm going, what's going on? Here's perfect. So, all right. And there are a multitude of beings here today that some I don't recognize, but some I do. There are at least 3 distinct groups in the room. I have to say, it's hard to see them because some are around people, you guys here, that they're either soul family or what have you. But the closer ones that I have that wanted to talk today, I asked the forest people if they wanted to, and they said no, not at this time. I asked several other groups, and the one that wanted to actually give a message this time was Odin and the Asgardian group this time. And he told me, he said he hasn't done a public venue in decades or any sort of thing like that. Well, maybe ceremonial, often some private ceremony or something, but not like doing this. I've done this on the internet a number of times, where I channel all the time on our shows that we do. Galactic Universal Consortium, The Lifting, Conspiracy Sector, The World of Sasquatch. I do channels on there all the time. So I will get to this. I now open the circle to true benevolence, no conflicting agendas at this moment in time. All right. And if you're wondering why I'm holding a crystal, this actually helps when I do channel. I could do it without this, but it's for shorter periods of time without this. And they use the crystal as more of a buffer. If it's a being that's at a really fast-moving frequency like him, you have ones that I would say it's like an electrical plant, substation, house. That's how they kind of compare the frequency layers they're in. His is further out, way over here. So, all right. Tighter circle, deeper roots is what the talk will be about today. You see, you have formed a unity no matter what variation of your beliefs have come to pass, have come to fruition. You're all here. In a place of learning, you're all here, forming a tighter circle, deeper roots. What I mean is that for a tight circle, deep root would be an individual, one attempting to find the unity of self-unity of smaller people, instead of people around them. The group would be tighter circle, deeper roots, a slightly larger circle that has unification in mind, has a vetting process in mind, discernment process in mind, of both beings that are around and that of familial bonds and energetic bonds, and a discernment of who you want around and who you do not, what beings you want around and what beings you do not want around. You have declared today, and also within the law of one and your previous ceremony, that you want only benevolence and true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. What this also refers to is the fact that you have a particular way of being. You only want beings around you that also offer and not necessarily agree, but that we can disagree all day long and still be within both the tighter circle and deeper roots, and that of no conflicting agendas. You just don't want anything around that is so far off base, even a benevolence that maybe you have a conflicting agenda that might think that they are doing something benevolent and it might not be compatible with your way of life, if this makes sense. I came here, yes, normally I would be talking about galactic history and things of this nature. What I will spend time on is bonds that you all are making, the familial and the discerning, and not only with all of you here, but all of them out there. What this has to do with, from being to being to be, all of you, and to others that are in other frequencies that you do not see, you feel, and maybe some of you see. They're all here right now, and some others have tried to come in here that did not belong. They've been promptly removed, not by just me. No, that's not always my job. That's all yours. And you have done so with zeal. I want to say that there are beings out there that necessarily don't want to be prayed to, for instance, but they wish to help. They have their own minds, their own hearts, their own souls, their own lives. Worship is not a thing that we worship, even though that seems contradictory to my own mythology. And I'll tell you, there's been a lot of imposters in my own mythology, both reptilian and otherwise, that have found it necessary to try to tarnish me in some way. And I'm not in an ego state where I am saying that, oh, now I'm here to correct my own name and clear my name. No. What I am saying is this. You maintain your space. You hold your space with both the warrior might intent and that of discerning the energies around you. You put that sword firmly in the ground and you say, no evil shall touch this space. This is why you must walk your life, not just in these spaces, but in every aspect of your lives. Where you're going to work, where when you leave this conference, you go to work, you go home. Some people think these two environments are different, oh, I'm here and I'm there, or I'm here and I'm there. No, it is all interchangeable. Work life, spirit life, worlds seem to collide. There is an overlap that must be rectified within both the monetary and that spirit. Yes, they are contradictory in their true natures, but they can marry within, as he would say, a Goldilocks zone or a sweet spot of overlap. There is a space where both capitalism and spirit coexist. See, back in the day, we had galactic trade. And we had galactic trade with not only the Uncommon race, the Cassiopeia races, Pleiadians, all of them. But we also had the 9 realms that were assembled, that were united under one flag, and would trade with other worlds. There is a commerce out there, but it is not like yours. Yes, there is like a, how can I put it, a ship-like system where they show resources, land, things of this nature. But what your system is right now is akin more to a Ferengi Commerce Authority, if you've seen your Star Trek program. This is what is being changed currently, not in a reset, but in a more heartfelt, unified no to that of greed, but it is more not capitalism at all costs, but it is more of a spirituality meets financial. You must discern of what was propagandic information by your government and what is real. Use your heart space, use your intuition, always. Now, I can answer people's questions if you like.
Does anyone have a question? Anything at all?
Can we talk about?
Is this working? Go ahead.
Hi there. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about NPCs and their role that they play and if they're going away.
What you perceive as NPCs in society, non-playable characters, I laugh a little bit, but this is actually a very serious subject. This not only is about perception, but this is about what people believe as in a mass awakening. I must, how can I say this properly? The people you see as NPCs, yes, they are being mind controlled, absolutely so. But conflicting with them at a moment in time of them saying, say something stupid, doing something stupid, not hearing you, not hearing proper context. Is it really worth your energy and effort to argue with them unless you are in a life or death situation? I think not. Now, here comes to the perception of, yes, there are mind control that is fairly prolific right now from both chemical and psionic sources. These are being rectified and dealt with, but also co-create these things out of existence. It is important to remember when encountering what you refer to as an NPC, he calls them muggles and normies, we discourage this wording of all kinds. Because this denotes one class of people is better than another class of people. Yes, they cannot hear nor see. Yes, some of them can become annoying. Yes, they are a pain in the butt. But does that mean that you have to jam your information down their throat? No. You have found your tighter circle, deeper roots. They are in their area, you are in yours, and your fires of information will eventually spread planet-wide. Your co-creative skills will undo both the chemical and the psionic damping. I'm not saying not fight for your rights and your freedoms, and that brings me to rights. They haven't come from a God-like source, they are earned. You must earn that presence of right. You must earn that by also discerning whether a fight is worth your time or is not. Do you wish to battle with the ones you call NPCs, normies or muggles? No, not at all. You do not wish to battle, even though they wish to have programming dropped into them. Their oversoul wishes this experience. But at the same time, when one is meant to awaken, they will. And this brings me to awaken in sleep. There really isn't such a thing. It is more or less a changeover. You could say awakening, I suppose, from your perception point. From mine, it is merely from one state of being to the next. It is merely a perceptual change or perspective change from an oppressed state to a non-oppressed state. To recap, in a situation like this, where what you call the Mr. Smith program drops into someone, That program wants one thing: to divide and to fight. Therefore, you cannot be the other end of the argument. Reaction in this, or non-reaction, in this, is paramount. Unless it is a situation where it is somebody programmed to constantly come at you and to cause physical, deadly harm, non-reaction to what you call NPCs is imperative at this point in time. This is part of that spiritual war. Negative telepathy is also getting to them. It's not just B2K. It is actually some of the other demigods and their servant demonic forces doing this as well. So keep your own space, clear your own space. Do not always worry about the other's space. If you are around a person that has this constantly happening, you know the truth and move on from there, or what he refers to as the splitting of the densities. Your frequency will become such to where they will gravitate away from you or get irritated to try to stop you and distract you as you're going along. Do not bow to the distractions, no matter how powerful they seem to become. Continue on your path and move forward from there. I know this sounds more simplistic, and some people can't always do these things, but if you are in a financial situation where you cannot, just know, keep to your own space and continue on with building that energy, and do not always worry about their space. I hope this answers.
And the one thing we didn't say about, us and our energies and co-creation, you really should take some time during the day thinking about how you want it to be. So the one thing that's happened to all of us is we've been so busy in our day just existing, right? Surviving all of this, and even what's being talked about, right? Surviving this, that we're not, and I hate to say it was planned, that we wouldn't have enough time to spend daydreaming in the experience we want. So you have to take some time to focus and to actually say, I see a world like this. I see parks with multiple families. I see them laughing. I see them enjoy it. I see them flying kites. I see them unifying and maybe playing a game of soccer with complete strangers for the day. Do you see what I mean? I see families gathering in my house, my own family, or whom I bring into my life to be more family-like. What do I see us doing? What are we talking about? What are we laughing about? What are we eating? How are we getting together? What are we doing? And those types of energies then begin to coalesce, and you have enough people like that, then what isn't in the picture? What isn't in the picture is some of this negative types of way, right? Where I don't want to see, people chronically sick all the time. That's gone. Do you see what I mean? So in order to start to change some of these things, one of the really important part is you must take, and I'm not saying a lot of time. I'm saying take a few moments throughout the day, and then your goal is, I am going to focus my energies on that I am now a part of with my energies creating. And again, believe it or not, for most people who don't know anything about that can be spoken of. What is something beautiful you want to see happen? What about the next work meeting? You get to somebody you're working with, and it always turns into a disaster. What if you talk to your coworkers and said, you know what, I'm going to hold a vision, maybe you can with me, but this isn't going to happen this time. That we're going to start to have meetings where people are respectful to one another, that people can communicate open, honestly, and with authenticity. Maybe you would find there would be a coalition of people who would agree with you, and then maybe you surprisingly would find that things started to go better. That is the act of co-creating positive and not getting caught up in some of the drama that was, that we were just asking about, because it's very real and it's very annoying, and we don't want to be part of it. But unfortunately, the truth is, if your frequency is beginning to expand, you do get attention from things that would like to see it not expand.
Very much so. And also, you jump timelines as well. You are in the great digital tree of timelines, both all world lines and little subsequent little, he calls them fine hair timelines on Branford. You jump between those rapidly. It's according to where you are. That is the timeline you are experiencing, and that your oversoul is experiencing for your current avatar, or variations thereof. you may find this familiar in your current superhero lore and all this other stuff. This is what is actually going on. That's what the Eaglesville tree is based off of. And don't be fooled by any other imitation. Just know that there's some AI things going on, and there are also imitations from certain realms of, say, the Eaglesville tree that you do not wish to adhere to. It's also in the spell language. I will not go completely into this part, but I will say this. As you're going through these different timelines, one could be where you're looking left, looking right. It could be just as simple as walking into another room. You go through deja vu all the time, which means you have gone through a timeline where possibly what you just did or were about to do did not either A, come to pass completely, or come to pass similarly or slightly differently. And now you are expanding further on the timeline that you're on because you have had this frequency difference, if this makes sense to everyone. So, any further questions?
Anything at all? Yes, please.
Thank you. So for what we are on the timeline today, are we in a place where there's a high probability of a single determined outcome, or is it a very volatile time where many different possibilities are on the cards?
It is actually a mix of both, where you are in a better outcome than you were in previous, let's say, regurgitations of these timelines. There's been multiple. In fact, you are much further along than you were before, but you are at a crossroads. Do you invite in New World Order, or do you invite in world unity? You're seeing elements of two in both your political theater of puppets. Do not allow that theater of puppets to rule you, by the way. That is key right now. If you do not like the decisions of the theater of puppets, your political theater, change them. Change them by the timelines of which you exist on and the clusters that you bounce in between. There are big world lines where these things differ. But in the world line you happen to be in right now, there is a crossroad where you allow a new world order, or do you form a unity? This is key, where you break away even from some of those bigger corporations. You break away from that and form things in your own community at the moment. Form that, from food to technology to online presence to shows to entertainment to any of it. Whatever you happen to be into, form it in your own tighter circle, deeper roots. This will have greater lasting effect, and it will bar any proclivity to a new world order. I hope this answers.
And just to add to that, let me give a current present moment example of how people's energies coalesce and work. Because again, it's like, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. Well, I jokingly say, if you're not watching the news and saying no in yourself, heart, mind, and soul to whatever's being pumped out there, like, no, we are not going to war. No, we are not having our children go there. No, this is not going to expand. No, because the way that the psychology of this works to get you to co-create for someone else is they start pumping it out in immediate ways that you start to feel, well, I guess it's inevitable. You have now just lent your energies to it.
Propaganda, wordplay, keep this in mind, or Orwell warned of this as well. Watch the words that are being used. Also, if necessary, there's nothing wrong with drawing the sword, if necessary. When you are in times of defense, when you're in times of true change like that, it is a misnomer that the warrior must be transmuted. The warrior and the passive and the aggressive are always in the yin and yang. There's always a dualism, and it's not passing from a dualism into a singularity. That is impossible. That is a paradox. Yes, you have both tendencies within you, but what is your role in this? What is your oversoul here for? What is your soul here for? What are you here to do in this? It is the warrior is just as necessary as, say, a monk, as, say, an artist, as, say, somebody who creates online content and shows things of this nature. You are all warriors in your own way. It is all the same. It is not one is lesser than the other. These were some religious precepts that got misinterpreted and or lied about by even some of my own, let's just say, bastardized kin out there, and I will leave it at that. But there are others out there that wish you to go down the wrong path. There are those that wish you the right path. But listen to your own heart space as to what path It actually works for you, and that is also the precept of the no conflicting agendas, also tighter circle, deeper roots. I hope this answers well.
Anything else? He's open to any questions at all. So one of the other things we say to remember, like right now, I think what's happened over the last 5 years of all of our lives is maybe a lot of people have shifted and are more confident with the thought process that maybe our government and certain things really weren't out to protect us. Maybe we're being a little bit used and abused,
Some
right?
believe they're doing it for genuine good, then they have their overlords that are not. And all of you may know this, but you are seeing it in real time in your faces since 2020, even more so. That's when it shifted to this set of probabilities that you are actually needing to observe and step up more. Poke your head above the clouds from time to time. Everyone on earth is being oppressed in some way. Everyone has been targeted. There is no targeted individual, so to speak. The only reason you know of this is because this person has poked their head even further above the psionic dampening or domain line, as he likes to call it, and therefore you are getting hit slightly more because of the frequency you are obtaining. This is quite an important distinction. Don't always consider yourself targeted because you will co-create more targeting. You have been targeted. You are now moving into a state of pure sovereignty. It is important. It's not, yes, love is important, but also sovereignty to enact that love however you see fit is the actual meaning of what I'm getting at. So, anything else from
And
me?
so again, you want to think of the food supply. When you're daydreaming, it is clear and free. People are healthy. They are happy. They are not getting chronically ill as children.
And that
Right?
some scientists somewhere will actually be able to co-create and undo what has been done. You can also co-create another person taking up the proper role in that particular way as well.
So that's where your energies need to really go into focus when that daydreaming that everyone needs to start doing. And you would be surprised just in general conversation how other people will agree with you. And then their energies coalesce. So just keep in mind that, you may feel like, well, gosh, we're such a small group. It doesn't work that way. Energies don't work that way. Again, there's no manual, but if you can think about it and if we can start to learn how to properly do it, it actually can happen quite quickly. It really, really can. So we do this, and the information that we do and bring forward is not because we want to scare anybody, but it's just the opposite, because we realize that people can absolutely be empowered and make the changes that they really want for society. They just don't know about any of this. And so it's time for these conversations and this information to get out. So we only have a little bit more time. We don't like to impede on other people's time. Is there any more questions at all? Okay.
Thank you for being here and channeling for us today. First
Of course.
could you give a little description of, sometimes the warrior in me wants to fight when I see something angers me, but I don't want to give it my energy. How do I you give a little advice on how to discern between that?
Yes, this is interesting because the warrior must always have a home. If you do not want it directed at the wrong target, give it a target. You must actually have a means for the warrior to have a home within your society. When he did a channeling of Bruce Lee, he told him this phrase: the warrior must have a home. You must give it a means, both from genetics and past lives that have culminated in the here and now, or the version of you that exists now, both lineage and past lives that culminate in the genetic memory. Within this, do the opposite of what the anger in that instance wants you to do, just run rampant. You must give that warrior a target, either through some kind of athletics, some kind of visual, some kind of outlet, something of this nature, either in a protective way. Some people that have that stronger warrior nature enter being as a soldier, police officer, fireman, any of those things. But if you're not any of these things, and you have the proclivity for this, you must give it a creative outlet of some kind that involves the warrior to mostly an extent, It can be a creative outlet like art too, but though mostly when it comes to warrior, that would be more athletic, more moving around. Himself included in this argument. He wonders why there are angry moments of instability. This would be why. The warrior inside must have a home of some sort, be some kind of creative outlet, whatever you wish that to be. If it is just firing off into random anger, it is not getting satiated, if this makes sense.
Yes, got another question.
Along those same lines, what's your advice on how we dampen down this ADHD stuff that children are dealing with?
Yes, so the poisons in the food, your vaxes, things of this nature, and also the dumbing as both chemical and that of psionic. It's ADHD that has enveloped them. What you can do is this: teach them grounding. As the warrior must have a home, grounding must also have a home. They must be taught grounding at all times, not necessarily suppressing emotions or anything of this nature, like a Vulcan. No. What you do is ground. Teach them to ground more and more, seeing that their feet are firmly planted into the earth and no other place. Teach them to know how their stray thoughts are actually time slips into other timelines and world lines, and they cannot pay attention. They must ground, and they must be firm. This is where I belong. This version of me is firm, feet planted in the earth itself. Nature will provide in this area. Never forget this. They must be taught to ground above all other things. The lack of grounding is what has created this ADHD. Your microwave weaponry have created the deoxygenation of the blood. This makes it so that the thoughts are dominant, as well as a degrounding, decoupling taking place. Get them familiar with nature more. Get them familiar with trees, stars, sky, feet firmly planted on the ground. And I know that you can't in cold environments have bare feet out all the time, but there are methods. They found it in Japan with tatami mats, earthing a house, things of this nature, where a copper wire and pipe lead from the earth to a particular room or the house itself. Make sure that the house is grounded firmly to the earth. You will start to feel the effects more of nature, but there is no substitute for being in nature itself. This is the key to undoing this damage.
Anyone else? We're down to about the last 10 minutes, so please, if you have a question, ask it.
So Vulcans are a race in Star Trek? Do they really exist?
Of course, Gene Roddenberry based them off of elfish races and also other types of races, both also Venusian is in there and a few Syrian type races, as well as some dimensional species. The idea was, the Vulcans were slightly more logical, more engineer-like. That also is back in your Egypt. This goes back to what you were all referring to in Egypt before. The builders of the pyramids were some of these type of people. They were depicted in your elder scrolls as the dwarves of the builders. Also the dwarves that also served myself, building the Bifrost and the weapons for the gods. They are a type of dwarf from a place called the World of Wheels. They're engineers as well, but then you have these more elfish types that were engineers that helped measure and build out some of the pyramidal technology, along with some of the Pleiadian races and dwarves and others. When they tried to reclaim these areas after the destruction of Atlantis, regular Egyptians or regular humans went into fight or flight mode. They could not handle the frequency these beings were on, and therefore killed a few of them within the Great Pyramid. The bar, or the metal rod that was in the Great Pyramid, turning it into an energy resonator, is now missing. It was turned into weaponry or melted down into ingots. But the engineers that built some of these structures are indeed the ones Roddenberry wrote about that you call those Vulcans, yes?
Yes, another question.
Do elemental beings like fairies and gnomes and dwarves like elves, do they exist, and were they supposed to be on Earth for this?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they, fairies in particular were here at the time of the Great Seeding, when different races brought different bits of their land to the Earth, roughly 65 million of years ago. Your dinosaurs, unfortunately, were partially extincted because they were a hazard to the different galactics when they were seeding this planet. They did not get eaten by a T-Rex, you see. So, then fairies and gnomes and all of these. And the Fae, they are all present on your world tree. Fae, from fairies that all look like ladies made of tree bark to like a tree beard type, like you see in Lord of the Rings. These Fae all exist. Even in your Maleficent movies, you see a lot of the ones that actually exist. In that, they have been depicted over and over again. That if you saw one of them crawling up a tree, they would look like a tiny little elf walking up your tree about the size of a squirrel. So you would start seeing these, and also elemental beings, these big elemental, almost viney looking ones that can take the forms of trees. Those are stronger elemental forms that may have an incompatibility with human physiology, again from the genetic incompatibility that what we said before with frequency. They are in tune with nature and they are guardians of nature. People assume Sasquatch are these guardians. Yes, for their colonies. And they guard bits of nature. Portals, dogmen do this as well, the good ones anyway. Not some of the more feral variety, we won't get into that. But the beings that you aforementioned, they are very active in your society. There are negative and positive forms of these, mischievous forms, both dark, light, and all in between. They are not all good or all dark, and just because they are incompatible with some of your physiology does not make them dark. Just because they are of another frequency does not make them light. I hope this helps.
Yeah, and one of them, what we found out, just to add one statement, is that, they are instrumental, a lot of these elemental, in the yearly birth of forestry and then deforestation or wintertime, the leaves falling, things doing what it does in nature.
Yes, they rule over the life and decay. There was one by the name of Ben Ortquell. They talked about a little fairy about the size of a dried up leaf, that they actually are part of the solstices, where they allow that of winter and spring and summer to come to pass, the life and death cycles of nature. So some of them were given assignments back in the time of the Great Seeding, when the Earth was originally seeded.
Yes, one last question.
So I've experienced timeline overlaps 3 times that I can say definitely, where reality changed. And I'm wondering, would it make sense to say this timeline is the most important one and that we are getting extra help because of that?
This will sound odd from a human perspective. No, this is the timeline that you are existing on, that your oversoul chooses to express within those little pair of timelines. The jumps that you are experiencing, you've experienced plenty more of them. It's just that your perception of reality has gotten more broad, and you're able to view these timeline jumps with both deja vu and these jump moments where you knew you crossed the timeline. Your perception is growing. Is this timeline more important than any others? No, but in your world line, is this outcome, set of outcomes, more important? Yes. Is your world line more important than another? No. So it is actually both.
Is that any follow-up, or are you good? You're good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I just really want to thank you all for sitting through this. I hope you found some of it informational, certainly something to think about. Again, we're located right through this wall, right in the back corner here. We do energetic work. That was one of the things that was asked of us a long time ago. What worked? Does an amethyst crystal really work, right? So the energetics of different things. And then we were asked to sort of, could you create something that would help a space become more of a sanctuary? And so we've spent a lot of time doing that. The interesting things that you will see on us are energetic pieces, more there for function or look. So one thing I just want to point out to you, which if you're energetic, you may want to come back. I know this is crazy, guys. This is a very functional piece. We bring it with us. We set up the energy that's pumped out of this to try to create a good energy field around is very, very, very strong. If you're energetics and you want to just hold it for a minute, come over to the booth and see us. But all of our pieces, because the one thing that we know that humanity needs right now is they need things to help create a good space so that you can expand within and have peace for expansion, to take that time to do it. So we were asked to create things like that.
One thing I will say before I attach is this. When also I'm talking through him, I'm talking to him in channels and sessions, I have also talked to other versions of him in the multiverse. I'm then also conversing with his oversoul and the different oversouls involved as well within the grand multiverse. Also, there are other protections for those particular world lines that have created that have been very similar to this one. I will now detach. I now thank you all for listening to the sound of my voice. Blessings to all of you, and goodbye.
So again, I hope in 150 years some of the things that we have made to help people end up in a museum, because we've now grown to be able to just do it with our personal intention and that growth we're talking about. So if you have any questions, just want to ask another question or something, please don't hesitate to come by. We'd love to just talk to people as well, and we hope you enjoyed this talk, so thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I'll close this circle in true benevolence and no conflicting intentions. So thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Odin wanted me to mention that with this, he didn't mention it during the channel, but basically they would be considered the Anunnaki, and then so with the Dark Orions, we considered this as such. Both sides genetically tampered and did things, went down into dark times. Odin got tricked by the Orions, things of this nature. If you want to know more about a lot of this galactic history, look up on YouTube at Galactic Intraversal Consortium. I will put the link down in the descriptor. It will always be there. TheLifting.net is our usual site, the go-to site for sessions. And you go to those two sites, the GIC.now or GIC.show, excuse me, is the go-to for the other one. So if you go to those, you're good. So, and this recording at 11:24 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, January 10th, 2026. Thank you. Oh, another thing that was missed in the talk was about tulpas and egregores, is what it's called. It's hard to pronounce. Being used against you. Discern whether it's you projecting outward and haunting your own space, like a poltergeist energy haunting a space. That's another word for it. Not a ghost, but it's a loud ghost or noisy ghost. That's also you. That's German for that. But also determine whether it's an external entity or yourself haunting yourself because you haven't done shadow work, or another being like a Draco is using your own creations against you. Like I've said, with narrative, it runs through your head, make it positive, then put your name as the executive producer and director at the end, and then fade it to black. That cuts the cord. That's what I did in the scenario where, like it was a Star Trek-y scenario where I saw Joanna die, brought her back to life, did that very thing I just told you, and it pissed some Draco off. Very important right now. That's also a form of discernment, whether it comes from you, or you haunting your own space, or it's something else haunting your space, or you affecting you from other universes, and also other versions of us from other universes too. Again, external and internal, they could be part of your oversoul. All need discernment, and all need to have your sword firmly put in the ground. So it is 11:41 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, January 10th, 2026. Thank you. Oh, I was just asked a question a little while ago regarding the protection when I said, why I didn't channel in, anymore in places that were heavy. And the result of it is parasites, dimensional parasites that crawl up through your energy centers like some horror movie, like some tapeworm that gets into your GI tract or something. Think of something like that energetically and dimensionally. And that is the result of channeling without a protective shield. Also, opening and closing circle properly is paramount to avoid things like that too. If you stay open too long, you're going to get parasites. Or like what I said in the GIC episode about the multiverse, in the Tronverse, that was Tronverse 4, I believe. The lingering too long was causing damages within the dimensions. And even one recently that was not mentioned on the show. So not necessarily damage, but having demon types pass from from side to side. Even one that was that weird bunny type that was over here and our ghoulish type. It started attracting them if you keep the door open too long. So that's why the MDTF and the Void were kind of miffed with Igron pulling the timeline closer, because it started to, it's like putting your hand in a ceiling fan and preventing the motor from turning, kind of thing. Similar. Or tying back a branch so the tree can't grow right, kind of thing. Same difference. It's a limited time where you can get away with that and bending closer or winching it close. So I will end that here. It is 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, January 10th, 2026. Thank you. Another thing that was mentioned in the lecture was about the dinosaurs, and that was a previous experiment from a previous seeding, from what we understand. If you want to hear more on that, go find on YouTube at Galactic Intraversal Consortium. We were talking about it on there. A little bit of the lifting, but it's mainly on GIC. So I wanted to make sure that that was clarified, that the dinosaurs themselves are seeded too. But it was a previous one, the Neanderthals were too. That's what ghouls are now, a non-corporeal version of that. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew this part. So it is 2:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, January 10th, 2026. Thank you. Okay, we're leaving the Cosmic Contact Conference in Timonium, Maryland. We're in the hotel room. A great conference. This will be added on to the show. This is Ghostbox time here. Just a quieter one, just for like a minute or two before we leave. And there was some things here in the room. You know, got harassed by ghosts the night before last. A little bit. One was fairly persistent. A shorter black guy was fairly persistent. There was a tall woman, lighter skinned woman with dark hair that was screwing around. And there were a few up on the upper floor up here because of an incident that took place up there. So that somebody else told us about. But we will negate that for the moment and just go in this one area. As I open this Ghostbox circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas, I'll even do a shorter version of the Law of One. The Law of One. When one is helped, all are helped. In unity we all stand strong. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask that only as the highest good be done. I ask that all negative energies and entities be swept away as of this moment in time. I give thanks that this is done. So be it, and so it is. I had to think about the new version of this, folks. That's why I had to pause. So, it's changed a tad since we started using it. So, I will get that in print at some point, the new version. So, and on the site. So, now, the question. What did you think of the conference, the people, and the products? I will start.
Xbox. Gaming. FM.
What about it?
Hi, friend. Who is this? We're marching. Who is it we have here with us?
This part.
focus mainly on the conference, please. Oh, somebody called me a retard. Thank you. Last couple questions from our normal benevolent entourage. Wayne and Vessa, any of them. Levick, any messages? I love you, man. One thing, what the power of the product level for any of the people answering? Coins especially. Thoughts? Can we just get along? Okay, yes. Who's that wanted to get along? From Sedona. Am I correct? Previous recording. Okay. Alright, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you. Okay. Obviously, at the time of this recording, I don't know what's being said, except a few keywords stood out. The word retard was prevalent there. So, I will say now, as I close this ghost box circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time, I also declare that nothing will follow us home that is not for our highest good right now. So, ending this recording at 7:39 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, January 12th, 2026. Thank you.